Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevating Your Life. And we are going to be elevated today. Oh, I have with us Dr. Stephen Farmer. He is a licensed psychotherapist, soul healer, and author of several best-selling books and oracle cards, including Animal Spirit Guides, Earth Magic Oracle cards, and Children's Spirit Animal cards, Healing Ancestral Karma, and the recently released book, Personal Tales of Encounters with Spirit Animals. And I have it. It's an amazing book. And Oracle Cards, Shaman's Path. Oh, this book was so fantastic. Wow. So first off, Stephen, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Paula. Yeah, looking forward to it.
I am really honored to share you with my audiences. Really honored. Well, would you like to share before we talk about your book, a little more of your background and kind of what brought you to writing all these amazing books and your cards and share
Yeah,
all
sure, Paula. I started out as a child. No, that's a joke. No,
that?
a silly
I
joke.
love it.
No, I'll try to condense it. Basically, a licensed psychotherapist, as you mentioned, a very active practice, very successful practice for many years, and then I sort of got the call to study shamanism and learn more about it. Starting with a book, Way of the Shaman, by Michael Harner, who I think is the one person responsible for the spread or the way that the term itself has been brought into the culture, at least the New Age culture, metaphysical culture, etc. And so after reading the book, I took a 2-day course. It was an introduction to shamanism, what he called core shamanism, meaning he's an anthropologist and he drew from several traditions to sort of see what were the commonalities, and then would teach. Oh, he's taught thousands of people, and then other people have gone on to teach that particular brand of shamanism, core shamanism. So I took that for the 2-day, and then I just started gobbling up trainings, different kinds, different approaches to shamanism, different cultural takes, Tibetan shamanism, Hawaiian shamanism, Celtic shamanism, and then through his Harner's Foundation, there were several other courses too that I took. So I just really knew that this was the right step. I had published some books, one of which is still alive and available as a therapist. I don't know, 30 years ago, something like that. And then I didn't publish anything for a while, and I can see now why in retrospect, because when I started another cycle of writing and publishing, I wanted to take elements of shamanism and make them more accessible. So the first book in that genre, in that period, is Sacred Ceremony, and then Power Animals, Animal Spirit Guides, and then some other things, including, as you mentioned, oracle cards. Um, it's like it was a calling, to really do that. I actually retired my practice for a number of years. I mean, I retired my practice, and then a few years back, I said, wait a minute, I've got a lot I can offer, including shamanic healing. Yeah, so let's, trauma recovery, a 3-year training in somatic experiencing, which is incredibly valuable to understand trauma and ways to treat it. Other EMDR, certified EMDR, so now I have this sort of blend, if you will, or medicine, in my tools in my medicine kit. I'm not saying that very well, but I could draw from if somebody's looking for something like trauma recovery, great, I got it. I could do it, hypnosis, and if somebody's specifically looking for shamanic treatment, I have that, or I can offer that to them, which is great. And I'm still, still a licensed therapist. So far, so good.
I love it. I love it. So someone can request from you shamanic treatment?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
In
it.
the bio, it mentioned licensed and soul healer. That it probably should more accurately say shamanic practitioner or shamanic healer. But yeah, people come to me for that type of treatment, and I'm okay, good, let's do it.
Oh, I
What
love
led
it.
me, Paula, to the animals, the spirit animals I mentioned, one of the first books in this era was Power Animals, And then Animal Spirit Guides, which is a compendium of, I think, about 212, I'm pretty sure 212 animals that give suggestions that if the spirit animal visits you in some way, here's some possible meanings or messages that are coming. So it's a kind of a handy encyclopedia. And there are other ways I'll talk about too that you can discern the message, but that's one way. And then, as you mentioned, the latest book, which is, I'm just so honored, I'm going to hold it up because Ariel asked me to hold it up all the time. Ariel's the publisher. Common Sentience is a series that she put together of, I believe, 8 different books that have a unique feature. And I am the featured author, but I didn't write the whole book. I wrote the front end, the back end, and I also contributed a couple stories. But the subtitle tells it all: Personal Tales of Encounters with Spirit Animals. And these are people that have submitted stories about that theme. And then in the series, there's other books on angels, angels, sound, ancestors, etc. This one, though, because I'm known for this area, Ariel of Sacred Stories contacted me and said, "Hey, would you like to do this?" I said, "Sure." And there's just some amazing stories in that book about, like it sounds, personal tales of how people have come
Yes.
across spirit animals.
And it is just so amazing, and those tales, I was like, yes, yes, because so much of that, what can we experience? I received shaman training several years ago in Sedona, Arizona, and I literally walked away with like, I see through new eyes.
Yeah.
And the messages we can get from animals. I know in our chatting, I talked about a few things, and recently I've been getting a lot. I have some challenges with family members and illness, and it's like I'm getting animal messages. I'm getting feathers. It's amazing. I literally am getting so many white feathers come to me, Stephen. And something a couple days ago, I still, part of me can't believe. I was cutting an avocado in my kitchen, and this little white feather came floating down in front of me and landed on the plate. I was just, and I have a place I save my feathers. And yesterday I had a spider on the windshield of my car. The other night I went outside and an owl was hooting at me. I haven't heard an owl in 10 years. I mean, isn't it fascinating though, once we open up to that,
Really is.
Stephen?
Yeah. Yes, it is. And I'll take, if that's okay, I'll take the example
Yeah,
of the owl. We could
yeah.
take any of those, but I'll take the example of the owl mainly because you haven't seen one for 10 years or heard one in 10 years. And that's the criteria that I have established for whether it's a spirit animal or not, or is it just an owl? Well, from one perspective, oh, it's nice, it's an owl singing, great. But if we go deeper into it, can begin to see that number one, this is how you identify a spirit animal: when there's an unusual appearance or repeatedly in a short space of time. That's a pretty big deal. So we'll count that owl as unusual. Would you agree?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very, yes.
So we can take a look at that. There's a couple of different ways that you can discern what the message is. I mentioned, not only my book, but other books, the internet, etc. You can always like research it and say, what are some possible messages, from owl when I spot an owl in an unusual way. The other way, though, is to take the characteristics of the owl or the animal, in this case, the owl, and sort of see the metaphor in those characteristics. In other words, if you think of an owl, this physical being, the owl, certain things come to mind. Like do you have a couple ideas, characteristics for the owl, just off the top
Oh,
of your head?
well, I've always felt owls are wise,
Okay, good,
um,
good.
and just
That's good. Yeah.
amazing creatures,
Yeah.
really amazing.
So wisdom could be one.
Yeah.
And they're reputed to be very wise birds, but also that they carry wisdom. The other characteristics are and this is a big one, that they fly at night. They inhabit the night. Some have called the owl the night eagle. The third, another thing that was happening is the owl was, you will say, singing to you. So, what else could we say about an owl? Oh, their capacity to turn their heads, it's more than 180 degrees.
Yes,
They can
yes.
actually turn, they can't turn around and completely, 360, but they turn around more than 180. So they've got a broad field that they can assess. So if they see something over here, they can turn toward it. They hear something, they can turn toward it, or just behind them, slightly behind them. So the implications of that, if you look at them as metaphors, is one, something about shadows. It may be that there's a shadow in myself that I'm not aware of, or I'm just becoming aware of. It's coming out of the dark, but it's still mostly in the dark. As a psychotherapist, that was a spirit animal that I worked with, or worked with me, or both, a great deal, because of the medicine power or the gift of owl was to be able to see beyond the immediate appearances, see into the shadows of someone. And that was part of what we do in psychotherapy, is work with those shadows. The other is that ability, that capacity to kind of keep your eyes open, would be one way to describe the metaphor. Be able to pay particularly attention to the peripheral, what's going on in that peripheral vision that we have. Another one might be singing. I actually did have an experience with an owl here in the neighborhood, and again, a fairly suburban neighborhood, over a period of several weeks. Quite often, when I take my dogs for the walk in the evening, I would hear this owl, and we'd sing back and forth to each other all the way to the park. It was beautiful. And the message for me was, hey, you need to pick up the guitar and get back to singing again. So that's one, and those are other ways. I don't know if any of those possibilities really resonate with you or not, Paula, but during this time of a challenge that you're experiencing, it brings stuff up. That's a possibility. But that's what we're looking for, is unusual and or repeated. And by the way, it's not just the physical animal. It could be a symbol of the animal. An example would be a big dream about a lion. Repeatedly seeing signs and symbols, something on the side of the truck about snake. Going in the supermarket, people are talking about snakes. You go home, turn on the channel, and there's a show on about snakes. You go, oh, okay, I remember what this Dr. Farmer was saying about this. So you pay attention. Now, the last, or I won't say the last, but finally, one other way to discern the message is, get this, it's real simple and not always easy to do. It takes some practice, but you ask the spirit animal that is represented by that physical or symbolic appearance of the animal.
Yes.
Owl, what's the message? And then you pay attention to whatever you see, hear, or sensations you feel in your body. See, hear, or feel. And it could be any combination of those. It could be just straightforward. You hear in your inner voice, okay, it's time to get that, make plans for that trip to Europe. Something just straightforward like that really has nothing directly to do with the characteristics of the animal. It's the message you need to get. So when you do that, and this is for your listeners, that give it a try. This is what I say, is give it a try, experiment with it. Close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and whatever animal has come to you in that way, send that telepathically, you could say, to the spirit animal that has, in a way, sent a sales rep to you.
Yes, I love it. Oh,
to get your
that is fantastic.
So whatever comes to you, it might be straightforward.
Yes.
Do this, do that. Or it might be a little more cryptic. You know how you wake up from a dream? You go, that was a really amazing dream, but I don't know what that means. Well, yeah, that could happen too. It could be a little more cryptic. So you just kind of let it simmer, let it stew for a while. And then at some point, the message will become clear, or you'll get another sign in another way, not necessarily from a spirit animal, but another sign in another way that goes, yeah, remember Remember what you heard in your
Yes.
mind? Here's a little
Yes.
more clarification. Anyway, those are some ideas about how to work with spirit animals.
Oh, I love that. So, when we see it and and I love that you mentioned it may not just be the live animal, it may be the pictures and it's just coming up in different areas. But to
Yeah,
then sit and ask them for a message and just be open to receiving, that's huge, Stephen.
yeah, it is. And again, I refer back to this latest book, Personal Tales of Encounters with Spirit Animals. And I feel really grateful that I was asked. That's the genius of Ariel from Sacred Stories, is that she chose different people that are known in those different fields. And I'm known not necessarily as an animal communicator. I want to be clear about that. I do okay with that, but that's not my, my forte is really what we've been talking about. And
Yeah.
so she and we solicited stories from other people, people I know, people she knew, etc. And it's 27 different amazing stories
Oh,
of spirit
okay.
animals, and a couple that I included that either I personally experienced or a friend or something had a particular. One other piece I should mention is another way that spirit animals work with us is often after someone you love has died. What will happen is, and it's typically a bird, but not always, a bird will appear to you in an unusual way, or one like a hummingbird or a dove, will land on the table where you're having coffee. And the way I take that is that it's a messenger from the deceased loved one, from the ancestor that's gone on. And that the message may be just simply, "Hey, I'm cool. I'm doing okay. I don't deal with the body anymore. I'm in the afterlife and I'm doing fine. Thanks. And just want to let you know, here's this dove that we arranged to have
Yes.
sent to you so you could feel at ease."
It just makes you think about and realize how connected we are to the animals,
Yep.
aren't we? We are so connected more than we probably even realize.
Oh yeah. And think about it. We are animals.
Mhm.
We some say monkey bodies. I like that expression. We have evolved from the apes, clearly are. In fact, we're considered an ape. Homo sapiens is considered part of the ape family, interestingly enough.
I love it.
And sometimes you feel that way. Anyway, so I think that's part of this probably largely unconscious feeling of kinship. And I say unconscious, I think it's a deep ancestral memory, that lives within us that it's not easy to access in contemporary society.
Yes.
Indigenous people know this. I mean, it's just a given. It's like, oh, you mean these are relatives? Oh yeah, what's the problem?
Mhm,
That we are
mhm.
related. All aspects of nature, not just the animals, but animals are more accessible, I would say. But there are also living beings out there,
Yes.
that don't have an animal form. The trees out there, the plants, minerals, etc. Go down the list. When you go into, I've done a few sweat lodges, and some of them have been Lakota sweat lodges. And the what you say when you go in a sweat lodge is like the mother bear. You go into the
Mhm.
womb and you go through a ceremony, a sacred ceremony that way. But when you enter, what you say is the term mitakuyasin. Mitakuyasin simply means all my relations. It's a very simple way to honor relationships. We in Western civilization have sort of lost that. It's, forgot it. And I say it's very because there is an awakening that's going on. That's part of what you do and what you offer. This awakening process into that sort of relationship with the earth and the elements of the cosmos.
Yes.
That we're connected, and that's very conceptual, but we're connected. And I know I've had those moments, I'm sure you have and listeners have, or you're walking out in the natural world, where it could be a park, your backyard, the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
there's just moments as you breathe, you pause, you stop thinking for a while, you pause and you go, wow, this is all a part of me and I'm all a part of this.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
awe is the best way I describe it, or wow, it also works.
It is.
It's
It
another
is.
version of awe.
It is a wowness. It's so amazing and so wonderful. And this may be a silly question, but I've kind of always wondered this because I so believe the animals, when we're open and trust, they come to us even more. We get messages. And I've always wondered, okay, that bird or that hummingbird that's coming to the window, let's say a loved one's passed or it's giving you a message. Does that animal know it's giving us a message, or is it just having the urge to go look at me in the window? Well, what would you say?
I really good question. Here's what I suspect, and I can't prove it, but I suspect there is a different kind of knowing than what we typically think of as knowing. Do I know that bird that's coming is my or a representative or a messenger from my great grandmother who died?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's the best way I could say is you get a hit. You get a
Yeah.
what happens, I think, even if people do get the ahas, often they'll just dismiss it. Oh, I'm just making that up, but what a nice bird, but I want people to go further with that. Just trust your imagination.
Yeah.
Imagination is the bridge. I like to reframe imagination. And in addition to it meaning maybe fantasy, make believe, pretend, etc., but I want to swing it over here. And I want everybody to start thinking about it as a bridge to this alternate reality. So
Yes.
that little dove or that hummingbird that comes to you as a messenger, do they know it? Yeah, they know it in a different way than we think of knowing. They understand in a level that we perhaps even can't comprehend their connection. There's my kitty.
I know, so cute. I love
On out of here.
I love
In a
it.
minute, Simba, hang on. But they have a different kind of knowing, sort of like we have this subconscious or unconscious, but subconscious. When you start to work in this arena, you have this subconscious knowing that the world is speaking to you. The
Yeah.
world is magical.
Yeah.
I remember the title of a book by Bruno Bettelheim. I never read it. This is many years ago, but I love the title and it speaks to me today, even The Re-Enchantment of the World. Is that a beautiful title?
Yes.
Be enchanted. And my understanding is, I think it comes from French, chanson, which means to sing. It's like singing to the world. Let the world sing to you, another metaphor, but the re-enchantment of the world. And that's what's going on in this awakening process is we're many people are beginning to go, wow, we are really connected to the natural world. We just have not known how to deal with that or honor that, but we are learning, which is absolutely necessary right now.
Yes.
It's necessary because our world, it's not our world, but the planet is changing.
Yes.
So,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh, when we open up to that and tap into that, we are just uh, elevating our lives and what we can see and feel and learn, aren't we?
yeah, we are. Go out and sit by a tree with your spine up against the bark sometime, or stand and then just breathe and see if you can feel, not just conceptualize, but feel that connection. It's when we begin to feel things in our body like that we have this sense of connection. Go pick up that rock, and think, what did it take for this rock to get here in my hands? What did it take for me to get here after 4.5 billion years to come into this expression of spirit known as Stephen Farmer?
Oh,
Yeah, it's awesome. And that truly awesome, not getting the correct change, those are truly awesome experiences. And that's what I'm after, encourage people is to have those experiences. And the more guidance that we can access, the better. Animals aren't the only way. There are other non-visible beings. I'm big with ancestors right now and understanding, which is a whole different show, but understanding that animals are our ancestors as well, that the natural world is full of our ancestors as well. They were here first, the plants and the trees,
Yes.
and then the animals. And then this one ape got up and started walking on 2 feet.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That is so amazing. And it's just so inspiring, Stephen. It really is inspiring to
Yeah,
know.
inspire means to breathe spirit in, literally.
Oh,
So being inspired and receiving guidance, especially during this era that we've been in, this crazy period that we seem to be coming out of. I don't know yet, but I'm not convinced yet. But the world's always had a little craziness to it. Whatever's going on in the world. But more than ever now, we need to access that spiritual guidance. However it comes in. Go see psychics. Work with oracle cards. Pay attention to the animals that show up, like we're talking. The theme of the today's show. Angels. If you work with angels, pay attention to what they have to communicate.
yes.
Ancestors, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of resources for us in the spiritual domain that we can access so that we can really contribute to the world, not just to humans, but to the world, and to be of service in that way and to help keep us on purpose, what we
Yes.
came here to do.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Stephen. With about 2 minutes left in the show, what last message do you want to give everyone today, Dr. Stephen?
Well, it's going to sound funny, but I'm saying don't believe me. What I'd rather say, but I'm also going to add to that and say don't disbelieve me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's okay to be skeptical, but put your beliefs, your disbeliefs, your skepticism aside and just go try it. The best science is when you experiment and you experience. What is the experience? Hi, Simba. You want to come up? Kitty's like roaming around here.
I love it.
But yeah, just try it out, and see what happens. I think you'll be pretty amazed. And eventually get to the place where you can ask that question again in your mind of the spirit animal, and then pay attention to whatever shows up. So what you see, what you hear, you feel. Give it a try. You can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. How can the audience learn more about you and maybe contact you?
Sure.
Um,
The most accessible is my website, Dr. Stephen Farmer, Steven Farmer.com. And there's a whole bunch of stuff on there, videos and articles and ways to sign up for the newsletter, etc. And a listing of my events that are coming up. The other is Facebook, Dr. Stephen Farmer on Facebook, good old Facebook, and Instagram, the same. So, I'm out there on social media, and you can get my books. We sell them here out of my office. Amazon, of course, has them. There's other resources. You can go to bookstores. I think they still exist. And you'll find my publications. So go check it out.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's been such an honor having you today.
Welcome.
Thank you, Stephen. Love, hugs, and blessings. Everyone out there, love, hugs, and blessings. Have a fantastic day.